Awkward noise. Yep. Did you hit the broadcast button, hhyyrylainen?
I did.
Oh, okay. Hello, folks. This is Thrive Podcast number whatever. 0.4.0 release edition. Hope everyone is having fun with this new 4.0 release who can. With us today we have that one dude. Who doesn't have a mic or something. He says Guten Tag. I think he's an artist. Yeah, he's an artist. And then we have Oliver, the iconic guy. He is our sound guy. And then we have hhyyrylainen.
Hey.
He is a programmer. And then we have Kraken.
Yo.
Who is also an artist. And we have 1N48YG.
Hello.
He is a programmer. Was that a good introduction? I hope so.
Very good.
All right, so we're here to, talk about something, I think, maybe. Something probably like 4.0 or something, I think. 4.0, are we talking about 4.0? I think we're talking about 4.0, guys. Which we just released. I was expecting a response. You guys are leaving me hanging.
I forgot to switch the chat to be visible, so sorry.
Oh, okay. I'm gonna pop onto our YouTube channel and look at the chat.
Yeah, I'm seeing some comments that are basically, I can't run the game, help me.
Yeah, basically. Thrive keeps on crashing. Thrive crashes when I start the game, which is probably the one that Troller Noob is having. Because he can't start the game. And please don't call me daddy. Please don't call me daddy. Hello, George. George, my dude. I don't know who you are, but I'm sure you're awesome. That red guy on Steam, yeah. So we have a few crashes. They're less frequent than 3.4, but they still happen sometimes. But you can still win. Like, you can win without it crashing now, which is always a good thing.
I mean, the last version you couldn't even win. There was no win condition.
Yeah, well, in the last version you probably couldn't even get to like 3 generations without it crashing and having to like
It's a
load
lot more
your
stable
save.
now.
I thought the biggest killer in the last version was lack of interest.
That too. The new version is a lot more fun.
There's more things. There's bacteria.
Yeah, bacteria. You can eat them. They're delicious and nutritious, and sometimes poisonous.
Don't eat bacteria in real life.
Well, in the game they can also be poisonous. Why does the game even have win conditions? William Coke. You were in our last podcast. I remember your name because it has the word Coke in it. It has win conditions because that means you can win, and you can also lose now. So you can win and lose now, and there's a better game loop. So it has a game loop that you can win and lose, which is always a good thing. Like, it's something to aim for, something to play a long time for. Well, in my case, I've won in 30 minutes before though, so.
Recursion.
What about recursion?
That one dude posted in the live stream video, so you can watch the live stream while you stream the live stream.
Yeah, I have the live stream open too. I'm just looking at chat. Will Celia be added next? Probably. We'll probably add those. But first we need to do some bug fixes. What happens when you win? You just kind of win. It gives you a blurb about how awesome you are for winning. Well, you will be able to move on to the next stage eventually. Robobomb. Crodnu, you almost forgot about our podcast. Traitor. Actually, I need to get coffee. Can you believe it? I haven't had coffee yet. The release of 4.0 is revolutionary. Yes, it's revolutionary because, for like half the bug reports we're getting are people who can't start the game. How long do you think you'll be able to play the Aware stage? Ages. These are the same questions we always get. How much coffee do I drink per day, Crodnu? A lot.
Could we show some gameplay and maybe comment on the changes first?
Yeah,
and,
we should. That'd be awesome.
Then take questions.
Coffee.
Hello, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you,
Yes.
Oliver.
Yay! Sorry, I plugged my microphone into the headphone slot and didn't realize it, and it messed up both the microphone and my headphones. So
it's always good when, like, us three, Ireland, me, and you can make it into a podcast because we can just talk for hours about randomness.
Well, we don't have hours, but we can talk for a bit.
Well, we don't have hours. Our podcast never lasts hours. I mean, they sometimes last 2 hours, but I'm gonna actually have to leave early because I have an exam at noon.
So, has anything interesting happened so far?
Well, I gave an introduction. You can now introduce yourself. Oh, we should introduce the people who just joined. Oliver, hello there.
Hello.
What do you do?
Hello. I'm ostensibly the head of music for the game, although I've kind of ended up the head of many other things because I keep doing the jobs of people who leave. So
you're the head. Sorry.
I also do loads of outreach stuff and some of the documentation. So, hello.
Godly British voice. Says that one dude.
It's not that British.
Yeah. I wish
I can make it more British if you would like.
I wish I like knew the difference between like the 30 different accents in the British Isles.
I don't, and I live here, so.
Where are you? What is your voice then? What is your accent? I'm curious.
Well, I guess mine would be, like the home county's accent of, because I'm from Hampshire, but that's kind of southeastish. So, anyway, that's beside the point. We can't have a release live stream and talk about my accent. That's not on.
So William Cox is. I mean, this is technically a release stream, not a podcast. You can get some gameplay, or
yeah,
listen to Discord.
Yeah, we're gonna get some gameplay.
Well, hhyyrylainen is currently playing, as I can see from watching the stream myself.
Oliver's music is basically the only reason you'd want to play an version before 4.0.
Hopefully
before that, it didn't.
Sorry. Hopefully the background music isn't too loud so people can still hear.
I was going to say, at least in this version, you fix the music so that it keeps playing where it left off after you leave the editor, which annoyed me quite a bit of the old versions because a lot of the micro themes are quite long, and nobody ever listened to more than about 30 seconds of them.
That's a good question, the pilot. I'm pretty proud of 4.0, especially since I worked basically full time on it for a semester. Tried to get it to work.
Yeah, we just wish it didn't crash so much still, but at least this time we have systems in place so that we can learn what's causing the crashes a bit more easily.
Yeah, maybe.
The music isn't 4.0, but like now there's actual gameplay reasons to play Thrive because Thrive is actually fun now.
Oh, those bacteria are flying. In the gameplay.
Oh yeah, they move super fast. I'm not watching the live gameplay right now.
Well, I'm just seeing there are some big, scary cells with lots of flagella and lots of toxin organelles. How are they generated in the first place?
So when we generate, the generation algorithm for cells is super basic right now. Like at the start of the game, basically it just every single organelle has a certain weight assigned to it, and when it generates a cell, it randomly chooses a bunch of organelles at a random length, and adds it to the genome, and the genome makes the cell. Although there are some new things, like I added like the ability for it to generate epic cells, so those epic giant cells with lots of flagella, those ones.
So what distinguishes an epic cell from a normal cell? Is there just a size threshold?
Yeah, just the fact that they're way bigger, basically. Because we needed something for late game players to be challenged by. It's a bit artificial because the auto evo is there now, but the player can still pretty much dominate because if they play well, they can reproduce. They can basically get new species out way faster than the AI can.
Well, would you care to explain how the AI work? No, sorry. Well, AI and then auto evo, how they work, because there's been some significant overhauls to them, and I've found it quite interesting. So.
This is all explained in the dev vlog. But...
Well, we could explain it here, because what else are we going to talk about that isn't memes?
Yeah, I know. It's okay. So the way the AI now works. Oh, he went extinct. Rip. The way the AI works now is that there's a finite state machine, and each species has behavior values that are assigned to it at the beginning of the game, randomly generated, which also mutate. And basically, there's a bunch of different states the AI can be in: hunting, preying, gathering, resting, etc. Kirtit just joined the stream, by the way. Hello, Kirtit. Introduce yourself. And Savage joined the stream. Jeez, there's a lot of people in the stream now. Everyone, introduce yourselves properly now.
Okay, I guess. Well, I'm from Sweden. I'm 17, soon to be 18, and I'm in the last year of high school in the northern Sweden.
And what's your role on the team?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm a programmer currently.
That's all we wanted.
Yeah, that's the important parts.
Everyone now has to give their age and where they're from, and
Yeah.
Awesome, just dox all of us on stream.
Kirtit, Savage. Okay, but anyway, as I was explaining, there's a finite state machine. There's a bunch of different states that the AI can be in, and their likelihood of being in a specific state at a specific time is determined by. They evaluate their environment to figure out which state to be in, and this is modified by their behavior values. And their behavior values also affect how they act in the state they're in. So, like a super aggressive bacteria, like one with like 400 aggression, that's like the max aggression, will just attack everything they see, even if it's way bigger than them. With species with high focus tend to stay in a state longer. So if you have like a high focus, high aggression predator, they'll be like the kind of predator that sprints you down until you run out of stamina. So, and lots of other really cool combinations. There's like crap. I need to look at what the actual values are now because I don't remember all the names of them. But there's aggression, focus, activity. Give me 1 second. I'm actually opening up the code right now. Okay, yeah, aggression, fear, activity, and focus. And those can have a value from 0 to 400. And you know the combinations of those different values and the new system for AI means that you have a lot of really organic behavior, sort of emerging based on their activity values, and it's just cool.
And William Koch asks, can we modify that for our own creatures? Not yet, but the plan is to implement the behavior editor in a way that we can. So yeah. The way this has been set up, it's going to be relatively simple to wire things into it. Mm-hmm. So you can set up your own AI
Yep, and right now the player species AI all has 100 in everything. So they're just like middle of the road. So yeah, like their aggression determines like whether they'll attack bigger prey. Their fear determines whether they will, like, what's the threshold they'd run away from something. Like if it has a toxin and you have a high fear, you should probably run away. If it's big and you have high fear, you should probably run away. If it's even smaller than you and if you have really high fear, you should run away regardless. Like I don't know. There's a lot of detail there. It's cool. I quite enjoyed writing it. And tuning it to work. Like I'm really proud of how it turned out because it can actually challenge the player.
And the AI evolves as well as the actual physical makeup of the cells.
Yep. The AI evolves some, and that brings us into the auto evo system, which is actually Darwinian now. So in your max zoom area, like the max you can zoom out, it looks at all the creatures in that area and based on how they act and what happens to them, it alters their species populations values. So like if a cell gets a good hunt, like if they kill their prey, they get bonus population. If a cell escapes a predator, they get bonus population. If a cell reproduces, they get lots of bonus population. If a cell dies, they lose population. And once your population hits a certain threshold, you can split off new species, and that species will mutate. It will be a mutated version of your current species. The player has population too, but it's a different system. Right now, which is unfortunate. But yeah, so like once they hit a threshold, they'll split off new species. They can split off one species, or they can split off multiple species. And then it halves their population again, and they have to build back up their population to reproduce again. And those who run out of population get below a certain threshold of population, they go extinct, and get taken out of the game. So you see actual evolution happening because it's Darwinian. It's Darwinian on the species level, which results in some cool stuff like bacteria evolving to be basically invisible, which seems to happen every game for me. Because I'm not hunting the bacteria I can't see, obviously.
Yeah, that's only an advantage against the player because only the player is actually hunting via sight. Right
Yeah,
now.
and the player tends to get more kills overall, just because, you know.
Unless the alpha of a species played into how likely the other cells would be to target it.
Oh, that'd be cool. I could add that. But then everything would be evolving to be invisible, and I don't know if we want that.
We could also tie alpha into membrane thickness. So,
Oh
if you
yeah,
have,
we could do a lot.
if you have a high transparent, high opacity, you may get targeted a lot, but it'll tank the damage.
William Koch, once you hit the population threshold, you split off a new species. They could get beyond the population threshold before the auto evo step happens, but after that, their population gets halved and they generate a new species. There's also some random events that play into it as well, so you can have like random extinction events and stuff that happen too, which you know shake things up sometimes.
How common are those?
Pretty rare. I think it's like 1 in 10 auto evo steps, which is a long time.
So the Xenomorphian asked me either what you guys hope to be multicellular when it comes out in 2 years, probably. Well, what I want to see is specialization of individual cells which are part of a larger multicellular body. I saw it on the old forms, whereas it's kind of like a jet. It had two cells of pili, the spikes, and then one motor cell in the middle with lots of flagella.
Oh, crodnu. Yeah, if they kill you, they get bonus population as well. So they're encouraged to kill you. But it's the same population they get from killing any other cell, so it's not like you're special. Like you're a special cell, you're not a special cell. You're just one cell of many in the world of Thrive.
Way to crush my dreams.
I'm not trying to. Aw, I'm sorry.
I wanted to be a special cell.
How long does the game take now to finish to win? 15 generations. As you can see in our playthrough right here, we're already on generation 6 after going extinct once, so it doesn't take a super long time. Like you could play through Thrive once, and I've done it in a half hour before. For most people, it'll be like an hour. You know, gameplay.
We want to see people try speed runs now, because you can actually win the game in this version, and we want to see whether people can create the best cell to go through it as quickly as possible.
Kinesis did a pretty good job last night when he won. He got there pretty fast.
How long?
I don't remember. But he was streaming for like 2 hours. And he was playing for quite a while before he like actually like played to win. Like, and then he started a new game and he won like pretty fast.
Do you remember what kind of build he had for his cell?
He went with all the prokaryotic organelles and flagella and a chemoplast.
Maybe those are a bit OP.
I feel like they are a bit OP. I feel like they're somewhat balanced, but I do know that they're pretty cheap, so you can add a bunch. But like it makes it harder to survive because like if you have a lot of metabolisms, they reduce your glucose a lot faster than like a mitochondria would because they're like 7 times less efficient. So
actually, that does lead me to a question about the auto evo system that's in right now. When the changes are made in a new generation, does it take into account like equivalent mutation point costs?
It does not.
Okay.
Yeah. It
Is
just,
this
like,
planned
adds one organelle.
Is this planned to be added in future?
I thought about that. I'm not sure. I think we want to like redo the auto evo system to something more patch based. So like what we have right now is not the final form at all. Like not even close. Like hhyyrylainen, you probably have something to say about this.
Yeah, it's basically random, or mainly random right now, and the goal is to make it so that all species are evolving towards being more competitive. So there will be like the world split into patches, and then each species in a patch gets to try like 5 mutations each editor cycle, and the best one is selected.
Yeah, because so right now it's like since it's fully Darwinian, you don't always get you don't get like you can get competitive cells, but not all the time. Especially since it's only what's around you that's being simulated, which really, you know, there's a disadvantage to things that aren't in your field of view right now. See what I'm saying? Which is a very artificial limitation. Like if it was like full Darwinian and like it was simulating the whole world, then it would work. But obviously you can't simulate a whole actual world.
Who says you can't?
The people with 8-year-old laptops who try to run Thrive and it doesn't even start, and the the graphics engine refuses to start and crashes inside itself.
Yeah, maybe we should start publishing like requirements on people's PCs, specs and things.
Yeah, but the weird thing is that like for everyone so far where the graphics engine crash is, they have Intel HD 4000 graphics, but one of us developers also has like the same CPU and it works for them, so...
Yes, Arcalego, since it's Darwinian, yeah, they'll evolve to defend themselves. That's why the bacteria evolved to be invisible, because they're afraid of the player, basically.
What I want to see for the player,
yep.
Instead of manually tweaking the values in the behavior editor, sort of a Lamarckian approach to behaviors. Is it like if the player hunts, they'll get more aggressive? if the player loses focus,
The thing about Lamarckian evolution is Lamarckian is a lot easier to simulate.
like in relation
well,
to behaviors.
Yeah, and this would be limited to only the player's species as well, which I quite like the idea of having the rest of the world working according to proper evolution and then the player using different methods of evolving, like a kind of intelligent design system where they design their own cell and seeing whether they can beat the simulation with what they have.
Yeah, yeah, I mean, yeah, like it's weird to say that, but it's like our game is advocating for intelligent design, but
It's not advocating for it. It's
Right.
allowing us to ask the question of which is better.
yeah,
Because you are controlling your cell according to intelligent design, and everything else is just evolution. So
I
you
mean,
can.
the true end of the game is becoming a god. So
yeah, I mean, yeah, the Ascension Gate.
Yeah, I feel we may have. That's a slight oversight there.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, the reason is obviously because the player needs to be able to edit their self for it to be fun. Like that's the reason.
If you want full and pure Darwinian evolution, there's Species, ALRE, which you can play. Released on Steam recently.
Yeah, true. ALRE is a pretty good game. We've talked to the developer before. Oh yeah, fun thing. Species have names now. When you hover over them, they have procedurally generated names, like, and they have the genuses and species, and like as they evolve, they'll keep like the same genus. Unless like there's a very small chance they've started a new genus, which is a lot like how Species ALRE does their like names for their species.
And there's also loads of Easter eggs in the species names.
Oh yeah, they're filled with Easter eggs. I think I even got Oliver in there. So like you can find it Oliverinium.
I am the most special cell.
Kinesis found a cell with Kinea as its genus, which was fun. He was like, it's me. It was great. We're on generation 9, folks. He's gonna win in 6 generations.
Can we win before we? Yeah, can we win before we have to finish? That's the question.
time is the enemy.
We need to add the ability to name your species again, like your own species.
Yes, well, there's kind of the GUI in place, but none of the actual code.
Yeah, I got the functionality for the rest of the bottom GUI working. It's just not the species naming. I had to come up with like a really convoluted math equation to figure out the average speed of your cell, which we're going to have to use later on for our auto evo system.
I'd like to take a look at that at some point. Also, on the topic of the GUI and naming species and everything, due to the engine switch, the GUI is now coded in HTML and CSS. So if you have abilities in those coding languages and didn't think you could help out before, well, now you can. So you can go along and join the team.
It's great because like it's really easy to make GUI now.
Really easy being a relative term.
William Koch, the controls are well, basically the game itself, like the gameplay, like I think the controls are basically the same, W and aim your mouse, but like it's a lot more, even though there apparently is like a little bit of lag between like you hitting the button and your cell actually accelerating. It's a lot easier and more fun to control your cell now, for sure. So the way new species name gets in Red Guy is by being a developer or like a YouTuber who we've taken a liking to, like Kinesis.
Honorary member.
Yeah, or like a meme that someone makes that I'm like, oh, that's great, I'm gonna add that.
Yeah, new challenge, make the best Thrive meme. It may end up in the game.
Wigglesworthia is referenced.
Yeah, Wigglesworthia is in there. Dickinsonia is in there as well. Which is the name of an extinct species, like an extinct, was it Ediacaran that the Dickinsonia was around? It's a terrible species name. I don't know who came up with it, but they're like a little flat plate of biomass. Is no one saying anything now?
It's quite fun just to sit back and watch hhyyrylainen play. Hhyyrylainen. I'm sorry, I've never figured out how to pronounce your name.
I always say his name wrong anyway, it's fine.
But just watching all the activity on the screen now with all the bacteria, and the slightly more fluid motion of the cell, and the actual proper flagella models.
And the cool looking compound clouds.
Trawler noob, yes you can evolve. That's what this whole game is about.
No, it's an evolution game and you can't evolve.
You have to get your cell to level 50 when you go from Moonstone holding.
You have to. It's like feeding growfish. Clearly, you have to just eat everything you see, and you just get bigger. You
can find loot boxes that allow you to evolve.
Yeah, totally.
$3.99 deluxe evolution package.
Can you devolve? Yes, you can. You can right click on organelles to remove them. It costs points to devolve though.
Because
it's not really devolution, it's just evolution in a different direction.
Exactly.
You can also just like create a new cell from scratch by hitting the new cell button at the top of the screen.
Yeah, I'm not sure we should keep that in for much longer because it does kind of break the idea of evolution.
Yeah,
you can't have a child that's just starting from scratch.
Yeah, true. You can't like give birth to a amoeba.
There we go. We have the stream name. Give birth to an amoeba.
Why am I always the one who says the terrible things, and then they make it in?
Because you're the one who's speaking the most.
There was a. Can you devolve? There was a. Oh yeah, someone asked about adding mold. Yeah, we definitely want to add decomposers to the game. Like that's something I've been advocating for a while. We'd have to change the way death works so that you don't just explode into a cloud of compounds. You like explode into a bunch of pieces, which give out compounds, and then you can like go there and be your mold and just sort of live by the dead things. It'd be an interesting way to play. Can you
make? Sorry.
Yeah, you say it. It's fine.
I was going to say, can you make pixel art out of bacteria? You could try. I don't think it's going to go very well because there's no way you can control their positions. But I suppose if you push them around enough, you could create some interesting shapes.
Who's the one who asked something? There was someone who asked what if it split the player species? It can't split the player species. Like I said, the population system for the player and for the AI species is totally separate. You can when you split your player cell, I think that the ones that split, I think they stay around. I don't think they actually despawn. Which results in like more of your species around as you play more, as you split more,
which may be why the tide pool tends towards just being all of your species.
Yeah, but that means that there are like previous like generations hanging around, so you can like compete with earlier generations and eat them and stuff. You can cannibalize. That's a thing. You can't friendly fire with toxins, but you can like engulf members of your own species that are smaller than you, because as you get your ammonia and phosphate, your organelles will split, and you get bigger, and that counts as being bigger, and you can like eat the smaller ones.
Perfectly balanced,
as all things should be.
I don't think that counts as perfectly balanced.
You create a cell, and then you eat a smaller cell, so you can create more cells later.
But okay. I don't. How is this maintaining resources?
It's probably not a good survival strategy to cannibalize your own species.
Probably not.
But you can do it, like.
I mean,
Well,
some
those-
species eat their mates, but they also produce more than one offspring.
That's the problem with cells, though, like mitosis. Although there are some microbes that can do what amounts to. Well, he could probably eat that one, the one below him. Oh, he just swam past it. Rip. Anyway.
I found a new bug. The compound display thing stopped updating.
Oh. Oh, that's terrible.
Ah, well, of the bugs we found so far, that's not the worst.
We're just finding new bugs all the time, guys. Rip. But as I was saying, there are some cells like that exist that actually do sexual reproduction. So that'll probably make it into the microbe stage at some point because we want to have all the realism. Also budding. We need to add budding somehow. Like that'd be great. Because yeast do that.
Isn't that just a type of asexual reproduction, where you just...
It is, but it's like a different way of doing it. I want to have all the different ways cells do things. Like if you look at the editor tooltips, like I went into detail about what a metabolisome is. Like I love like microbiology.
Which is a good thing to, it's good for you to love microbiology when you're making a game about microbiology.
Yeah.
It would be a problem if it wasn't the case.
Exactly.
And we
so,
hope
like,
to make all of you love microbiology as well.
Yeah, that's my goal, but people are always like, when's the aware stage? Rip.
It will come after the microbe stage, so
Multicellular stage will come after the microbe stage.
so just keep supporting the microbe stage, and it will come eventually.
I mean, aware stage would use a lot of the late multicellular or assets. It's like creature creation, just more complex.
Yeah. We'd have to have like a proper 3D editor, like, which would be an interesting thing to take on challenge-wise. But for now, we want to make the best microbe stage we can have. We want to make a microbe stage everyone loves, and it's gonna happen.
And for the people who currently have a download of Thrive that works on their machine, people are positive about it. So
Yeah, those who aren't having bugs, like Biologica posted something on the forum. His game wasn't showing the compound clouds, and he thought it was intentional. It's like, no, dude, it's not intentional. That's a bug.
yes, we removed the most major feature of the game right now.
You'll need to get your compounds out of loot boxes.
I mean, are the bacteria technically loot boxes? You can eat them, and they give you compounds.
There is a cost to eating them.
Hey, Untrustedlife, I think what made the GUI stop updating. The microbe ambience sound player fails to create itself, and the hard system assumes that it always succeeds, and it doesn't. So like randomly, because like there's a lot of the sound playing errors, so randomly it can happen also in the microbe ambience thing, and then you're screwed.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Someone should
add some
write
I
this
should add some
down.
error checking.
But the music's still working, right?
Is the music working? I don't have volume on the podcast turned on because I don't want to hear myself.
Yeah, there
Someone else.
is still some music going on.
So
It would be nice to have different ambiences for different biomes. Like the hydrothermal vent, it had like
Oh
vent,
God!
Ooh,
How
now that's an
cool
idea.
that would be.
bubbling, and pressure.
Like Oliver doesn't have much free time nowadays.
Nope.
I don't
I've got a couple of weeks at Christmas right now, and I'm gonna have to start. I started revision today anyway. I'm gonna have to do proper revision for exams over those few weeks. So basically, the last week is the only one I've had free recently, which is why I've helped with the Thrive stuff.
Yeah, Oliver being basically our only sound guy.
Oh my!
And one not very. I'm not. Oh, whoa.
The first
the
first time I saw the yellow banana background on Linux.
I've been transported to an alternate dimension.
Oh God, that bug.
Unfortunately, this is not the disco realm.
It's just the new minion biome. Don't worry.
We call it the banana biome. It's a bug.
We should turn it into something like the disco mode, where it becomes an Easter egg later on. So you have a random chance of ending up in the banana biome.
That'd be terrible. Like to have like a disco mode biome Easter egg. You just get it, and if you're seizures, well, I guess you're screwed. Just because it'd be flashing like crazy or whatever.
But we do have the music for it, so.
The yellow is despicable. Yes, it is. I actually haven't seen the banana background pop up in the actual gameplay. I've seen it show up in the editor. But this is the first time I've seen it pop up in actual gameplay since we band-aided that bug.
If the banana biome would be an actual thing, then it would probably have a more stylized background. Less giant
gone
pixels.
now? Huh.
We just need to change the game's lore. So instead of like being microbes in a tide pool, you're microbes in a fruit bowl. So we need to add an apple biome and some grape biomes.
One of the biomes that I've heard suggested was dead leaves.
Oh yeah, dude, I'd love to do a microbiome, like when there's life on your planet, like as a microbe. Like that'd be so cool.
You go in the intestines, fight out their immune system.
Also, fun thing that the menu button doesn't work either. So
Has the whole GUI just frozen then?
yeah, it's frozen.
Does the editor still pop up?
I probably not. Like maybe it should pop up, but the GUI doesn't update, so I can't click it.
So you don't know where you are.
I can't click the menu button either, so like completely
Can
frozen.
you hack into the editor?
We disabled the cheating in the release build.
Oh.
TJWhale just joined the podcast. What's up?
He's gone now.
Oh.
Clearly there wasn't very much up.
So what's going to be the next update? Friend.exe asks. Well, we're probably going to do like a hotfix release. We might do a hotfix release, and then we'll do 4.1. Let's keep trucking along,
0.4.01.
Yeah, we might have to release a hotfix or two.
Oh, TJWhale's trying to fix their mic. Okay.
Should we promise a time frame other than the hotfix is soon? And well, I'm not sure if we can actually like fix the banana biome or the game not starting for many people, or even I think they are all physics related crashes that like for people who get the game to run
getting the wrong people, or even I think they are.
I'm gonna look at what how my bus is here.
I think we're getting some echo from TJWhale.
Yeah, Whale, you have some echoes. I can't really.
No, it turns out we've just doubled the number of Thrive developers. There's duplicates of each of us.
My
Well,
choice.
0.4.1 in 2 days, guys. We've got more developers now. Yeah.
All right, guys. The latest I can stay until is about 11 20 or 11:36. So I can be here for another 45 minutes.
You guys, can you hear me now?
Yep.
Yep.
I can hear you now. I don't think you've ever actually had your voice in a podcast before, TJWhale.
I think I was in one a while ago, but it was quite a while ago. Yeah, I do come on quite rarely.
As you
What did I
as you can
miss?
see, guys, we grabbed another British person.
Yay!
We kidnapped them and added them to the Thrive team.
The British shall regain the empire and take over the Thrive development team.
Random says, "Do you take volunteers?" Yeah, we do. We're all volunteers.
Yep, we're all volunteers. I have a Patreon, but it's not just for Thrive.
Yeah, the game is open source, so you can come on and you can actually make changes to or fork a copy of the GitHub repository and make changes on your own branch there, and then create a pull request and stuff. So you can make direct changes to the code even if you're not part of the team.
So TJWhale, please introduce yourself.
Hi, I am TJWhale. I'm the theory.
Rip.
Oh. He got taken.
Mike just cut out.
It's just theory.
He's
Okay, so can you hear me now?
Yes.
Sorry, I've had nothing but mic problems so far. Yes, I am the only person in the theory team, so I'm leading myself, which I think I'm very successful at, which is good. And I'm also the microstage lead designer, which is quite cool. And yeah, that means sort of respecting the consensus of the team as much as possible, and when we need to, kind of making decisions about how to move forward on stuff, which I think has been helpful so far because we've sort of ignored gameplay quite a lot in the last few years, but we finally tackled it. And 0.40 I think is really fun and really good. So yeah, thanks for everyone for working on it. It's been super awesome, and I think we're making good progress now.
Yep. TJWhale is our elected dictator.
That's not how that works.
Yeah,
That's not how any of this works.
I mean, the team's always been a bit complicated like that, of like, how do people end up in positions? You know, what's the mechanics by which that works? We've never really had a good answer to that. So, yeah, I think I was elected dictator, which I think that happens. That happened in ancient Rome, I think. But
Yeah, I just joined for music and now I'm here. How did this happen?
Yeah. My main goal with it is to try and make sure everyone feels like they've got a voice and they can be heard in game design discussions and everyone's view gets respected. Those are my main goals of trying to do leadership stuff, I think. So hopefully I'm successful at that. And if I'm not, please, let me know and complain. That's fine. I'll try and do what I can to help you out.
I think you're doing an awesome job.
Thanks, man. So what did I miss so far? What have you guys talked about?
Just the various new systems. How do bacteria work? Like how does the auto evo system work? How does all of the new stuff work? It's basically what I've been talking about.
Yeah, awesome, man. The bacteria is such a great addition to have to this version. I think they make the whole tide pool feel much more alive, or the whole biome feel much more alive, which I think is really cool.
Yeah, when I first rejoined the team and I was just like, I'm gonna make bacteria immediately, everybody's like, no, work on other things, but here we are.
There are still other things to work on.
There's of course plenty to work on, but like I got the bacteria in, and then I, did basically more than half the code for 4.0. So.
Yeah, you have done a huge amount, which has been awesome. I think that's been really great.
Me and hhyyrylainen are have tag teamed 4.0 up. We did a good job.
Yeah, I agree with that. You've done brilliantly with it, and everyone else actually. It's been a really good release. I wanted to say I was thinking of putting a post up about it, how great the team is at the moment, and how everyone is really talented and been trying really hard, and it's just awesome people who are getting on really well. So like I'm really happy in the team at the moment, and I think things are going really great. So thanks everyone who's put effort into this because it's working well.
Oh, thank you. I shouldn't be thanking you because I haven't been here very often recently.
Oh nah, Oliver, what you've done has been huge. You wrote multiple devlogs. You're on point.
I suppose.
Yeah, and you did the whole soundtrack, so that's worth quite a lot in itself.
I didn't do the whole soundtrack. Other people have made tracks for it, and also I'm trying to offload my responsibility of writing devlogs onto other people, but no one seems to want it. So
the only reason is because I have finals this week, obviously, which was making it hard. And it's like, no, I can't write a devlog because I have to fix bugs for 4.0, and then we release and there's still bugs, but at least we got a bunch of them.
I think the stability improved quite a lot, so yeah, that was really good. You managed to get most of them, but
oh yeah, we have new biomes. We totally didn't talk about that.
Because hhyyrylainen was doing so well that he just stayed in the hydrothermal vent.
There still isn't any effect from actually being in any biomes right now. It's just background and visuals.
True, but that's only because, like, if you look at the files, like, they all have the same stats. Like, we could easily make them different.
I think it's interesting that it'd be quite a good thing to work on, which is like separating out all the patches. I mean, I don't know when we're going to get to it, but I think it's quite cool because firstly, then you can have them all be different. Some have hydrogen sulfide in and others don't, and some have sunlight and others don't, and this kind of thing. But the other part of it is we'd get so much more gameplay because you could start out in hydrothermal and stay there for a bit and adapt to that, and then move to a totally different patch and then adapt to that, and then move somewhere else completely different. And I think that would increase the amount of gameplay we had quite significantly.
Yeah, Right now, the only reason they don't change is because you don't have any choice in what biome you're in.
Basically playing kind of the quantum leap version of Evolution, where every time you die, you go into a totally different body, different biome.
I just noticed that hhyyrylainen has the new main menu asset, which we haven't put in the 4.0 release. He tried to hide it, but you can see it.
I
Spoilers
just
for the next version.
I love the way he's gathering compounds. He's using he's actually using WASD instead of just W.
Is that not what you do?
I do it too. It's just like it's fun to see someone else doing it because like Kinesis never does it.
Pro strats,
yeah, seriously.
The real strat is just run and tumble.
A run and tumble is in there too. The AI, when they're gathering compounds, actually use the run and tumble algorithm. That's new.
Yay! That was my sole bit of programming, really, when I did that prototype.
That prototype was super helpful.
Thank you. It's an actual biological algorithm because real cells use it, and it's very, very simple. I can explain it now. It's if compounds now are greater than compounds a few moments ago, keep moving forwards. If not, turn in a random direction. And there you go. You're now a cell. You know how to move like a cell.
Yep, it's a biased random walk, essentially.
Or a gradient descent algorithm.
Yep.
It'll be a gradient ascent algorithm rather than descent.
Sorry, yeah.
Oh god. Like something just
it's the
captured
same thing.
hhyyrylainen, like Prah!
Up to him.
You guys see that hhyyrylainen just got destroyed. Just like a cell just swam up super fast, grabbed him and ate him like immediately.
I did think it was quite funny that the difficulty of the game increased radically like 2 days before release. I thought that was quite funny.
It's because there was some bugs where it was randomly deleting components, and it turns out it was deleting the AI component a bunch. So the AI was just sitting there.
Okay, not doing anything. Yeah, that makes sense.
But now
it's cool. It's a bit more difficult,
Yeah, like I think it's good because the game was way too easy before we fixed that bug.
I just want to say
There's quite a
someone
lot
said,
we can do.
sorry.
No, after you.
Someone's asked, are the devs reading the comments? Yes. We've got so much to talk about for once that we don't have to take questions from the chat right now.
Yeah, I mean, someone talked about the tide pool biome, and I was like, oh yeah, we have a bunch of new biomes. This is one of them. This is the coastal biome, I think.
I thought it was the sea biome.
No, the actual ocean biome, like the epipelagic, is darker blue, and it doesn't have all the extra stuff in the background. No, this is the coastal biome.
So bright.
So the reason it's so bright is because that's actually what the biome looks like in the art. Before it was artificially making them darker because the shader was written wrong. So I fixed the shader, and now they look like they're supposed to look like. So it's meant to be bright. Although I do agree it needs to be darker, but this is what they drew. So.
Yeah, cool. I think another thing related to that is that tide pools, I think what we could do, I don't know, is if people like this, is to have the sunlight in there sometimes be overly intense, so it is kind of too bright and damages your cell, and then you can use pigments to try and block out some of the light and this kind of thing, which would be quite a nice mechanic, but then those would need to kind of be too bright sort of deliberately.
Oh, that would make the appearance actually matter.
Quite cool, wouldn't it? We might be able to do that light spectrum stuff as well, so that you have to kind of change the color of your chlorophyll in order to get the sort of maximum absorption of the light from your particular star, and then that would change the color of your plants later on in the game. I mean, obviously that's very, very speculative and hypothetical, but I've done some of the maths for actually working out the spectrums and stuff, so that's already done, so that could be included.
Yeah, like it would be chlorophyll in our world, but in real life, like they would use different chemicals to do it. But yeah, so you'd be able to color your chloroplasts. Yeah, that'd be cool.
I think light mechanics is something. After you.
No, sorry, you go ahead.
Okay, cool. I've been playing a lot of Subnautica recently because it's been free. I don't know if anyone else has, but that's awesome. Like the bioluminescence in that is really cool. So like, I'm hopeful we can get that, at some point, because that just looks really nice.
TRH, crodnu said he was going to start on multicellular, but he hasn't actually worked on the game for months.
The trouble with starting multicellular now is that it will rely on a lot of features from the microbe stage that aren't in there yet. So you're effectively building on top of things you don't know, and it might be possible, but it would also be quite difficult and liable to go wrong.
I love seeing the enemy cells split. It's like you can.
Means you're just one C.
Huh?
Means you're just like the other cells.
Yeah, no, like what I mean is that like you could actually see like they're splitting apart like super fast, just because of the way it's written. Like so it just looks cool.
Yeah, that is nice.
Can you zoom in while you're playing for a second just to show off what it looks like up close?
Oh yeah, that'd be nice. Yeah, we have a bunch of new graphics. If you guys can't tell, we just like upgraded all the graphics.
The game looks so much better now.
Unfortunately, it's had a negative effect on people with Intel graphics cards, but at least the old ones.
Like there's a dark green cell that has a different
Hey,
number
look, the
texture.
invisible bacteria are around.
That cell that's passing by.
When he zoomed in, there was just a swarm of invisible bacteria just swimming around.
I see. He's
one thing.
Sorry.
No, he's after you.
I was going to say he's taken the not changing your cell at all strategy.
Yeah, he's doing.
The game is not balanced at all right now, so it's probably possible to win without doing that.
Well, I mean, it's somewhat balanced when you add organelles.
I know what you mean. We need to have some nice incentives to actually change, so that there needs to be positive reasons to add organelles. I also like that thread from the community forums a while ago about having a reason not to always spend all your MP, because I noticed in some playthroughs people tend to add like a couple of cytoplasm just at the end, not that they really even want, but just because they don't want to waste MP. So it'd be nice to have some mechanism where you could use those MP for something positive, without always feeling like you had to use 100% every time you went to the editor.
Like if you use less MP, maybe the opponent cells use less MP themselves because you evolve at less time.
Yeah, that's a possibility. Yeah.
Or maybe you start with more compounds or something.
I wondered about something like that, like maybe some kind of stability bonus. So like if you don't change very much in between generations, you maybe get a bit more HP and maybe a bit more starting compounds, or maybe you can move a little bit faster or something, which kind of represents like if your cell doesn't change over a long period, then it kind of optimizes itself and it gets very sort of, I don't know what the phrase is, it runs really well, like a well-oiled machine, because it's just been the same for a long time, just slowly selecting little changes. But if you change the plan a lot and use all 100 MP, then you don't get much of that bonus for that lifetime. Yeah, but it doesn't stack over multiple lifetimes, so it's sort of, you know, you can choose how much to change and how much to lose that bonus. I don't know if that's a good idea or not.
Now that you've explained it, I really like that idea.
I think it's a good thing to consider, really.
I also wondered if we went down that path, we could kind of have it that every time you die, your stability bonus goes up a little bit. So that means people who are really struggling, you know, if they're dying like 5 or 6 times before getting back to the editor and really finding it hard, are slowly getting their cell boosted just a little bit up to some, you know, maybe you get like 125% HP max or whatever. So it's not game changing, but it just gives you a little boost if you're really struggling. Like that would be quite nice too.
Maybe you shouldn't get the boost if you make absolutely no changes. Maybe you have to just make one small change.
Yeah, interesting.
Adds and removes cytoplasm.
Yeah, well, I guess if you move stuff around, that is a change in your cell. You know, it changes the cell plan. Something else I wanted to say as well. I can't remember what it was. Sorry, that's the most boring podcast statement ever. It was something about tide pools and light mechanics. No, I'm sorry, I've totally forgotten it.
Light something?
No, I've got it back. Sorry.
Yay!
About multicellular, right. I think there's kind of 2 distinct bits to the multicellular. There's the sort of 2D where we're thinking of still having this kind of 2D top-down, but where you can put multiple cells clipped together. And I think that's got quite a lot of overlap with the microbe stage, and maybe is a bit easier to start on a bit sooner. Whereas the actual sort of 3D multicellular, where you're swimming around in the ocean as a fish or something, that really is very, very different and would be a big departure.
Yeah, I'd be okay with that. That way you could evolve rotifers and stuff. Like, that'd be cool.
I don't know what a rotifer is. What is it?
They're like a okay. So they're about the size of like a large single-celled organism, okay? And they have like a proper stomach. And they have lots of cilia. They can swim around. But they're multicellular because, you know, their stomach and stuff is separate.
Oh, so cool. Like they're like right on the border, like they're just very small multicellular things.
Yeah, they're just very small multicellular things. They only have like a couple cells. They only have like a few cells.
Oh hey, hhyyrylainen won. Oh, we did finish a game.
Hey, nice. Congratulations.
There we go. The official first pitiful cell run complete.
Congratulations, winner is yet. Who am I kidding? I love that. I need to make it pop up for longer so you can actually read it though. That was like a last minute change I made. Like so we had like you could win, but I made it so it had a little text blurb.
And obviously,
nice. I think it.
Sorry, this keeps happening. You continue this time.
I was just going to say, I think it adds quite a lot to the game to have win and loss conditions. So I think that's quite cool. You know, it's nice to have them in.
Well, one N. Oh, he left. I was going to say he's the one who like put in the first steps of that. So it deserves some praise.
Yeah, having some more programmers on the team has been great. Just doing a few things. I like the camera thing that Savalige did. That was really cool too.
Yeah, that was pretty neat. Yeah, and then
can you expand on that? I'm not sure what that is actually. I haven't been around enough.
So in a lot of games, like 2D games especially, the camera's not kind of locked exactly onto the character. So you can do that. You can have it that as soon as the character moves left, the camera moves with them immediately. But another way of handling it is to kind of give the camera kind of a little elastic band on it, for example. So when the cell starts moving, it will move away from the center of the screen. But then after it gets a certain distance away, it'll start to kind of pull the camera with it. And then the camera will kind of catch up and go with it. And it gives it kind of a more fluidy, open feel. Like they often do it in, like if you have a platformer where you're mostly going down, for example, like Downwell or something, they'll tend to put the camera mostly below where you are and that kind of thing, and sort of have it go ahead of you. They do it in Hotline.
Oh, he's got to go.
Microphone went. They do it in Hotline Miami too, where like the camera extends a bit in the direction that you're facing, so that it helps you tell which way your character is orientated, because the camera gives you some clues on that. So having these kind of slight little dynamic camera tricks, you're not really meant to notice them while you play, but this one's really nice. It just sort of helps it feel a bit more fluidic. I think that was your thing on Untrusted Life, is it just helps it feel a bit more like it's in a fluid and a bit softer, which I think pretty cool.
Yeah, I think it actually, I think like it's a little change, but it adds so much to the game.
Of course, something else that could add to the fluidity of things is to have microbes actually move around in the currents that are controlling the compounds, but that is going to be quite difficult, I would imagine.
Currents are hard. Like,
I think
we had them in like my prototype from like ages ago, like 2013, right? That worked by just like giving a physics impulse to a certain amount of to everything around a certain spot on the map, in a specific direction, which was really simplistic. So we could like do something like that, I guess. Like it would just spawn in these components that do physics impulses to things nearby them. But I don't.
Two thoughts I have about currents, and that sounds an interesting approach. Like, you know, anything that's quite straightforward is I'm quite a big fan of. Two thoughts about it is, one, for people who are playing as like pure plant cells, it's probably a bit nice to be moved by the current. Maybe, like, I don't know, if you get really big and you don't have any flagella or anything, it might be nice to be moved by the current. The other thought about it is, I don't know how it would feel. Like, if you're trying to go against or with the current, would that feel good? Like you were kind of riding it and you could kind of predict it like a river? Or would it kind of feel a bit annoying, like you were just sort of lost outside in a gale, getting buffeted around?
Well, I think the idea is that you could, depending on which of those you prefer, you could add more flagella or remove flagella, and then take control of your own movement. So if you want to move against the currents, you could add more flagella to your cell, and then you have more power to push against the water, presumably. But if you want to, you know, have that river roller coaster type of feel, you could just get rid of all your propulsion yourself.
And yeah, like the way I did the currents, that idea, like that'd be actually really easy to accomplish, I think, with the current game, was because we have the spawn system. So we could just spawn in these little invisible physics impulse current generator things, and then despawn them when you're far away, and it would work. I don't know. It's a thing to think about, maybe.
Well, for full immersion, you'd have to do that. Have to sync it up with the compound stuff.
Yeah. That's why I'm like, it's not the most ideal solution.
I like the idea of giving the player the choice, though. I think that is interesting, because like sort of later in the game, if we're going to have stuff like people playing as plants and that kind of thing, the plants would need quite different gameplay from a wolf or whatever. Like the game needs to morph quite a lot to take account of people's play styles. So I don't know if it's worth starting down that path or not.
I'm sorry, Xenomorphian. It's just that we have so much to talk about, you know. Like, they asked when we estimate the micro stage will be finished. Like, so here's the thing, Xenomorph, that question is asked so often that, you know, it's kind of annoying to have to answer it. It's like, we have no clue. Like, there's a lot of cool stuff in the microbe stage that we want to add. So, like tunneling microbes, it's a thing.
I think that's a good point, because it's like, we can make the microbe stage bigger or smaller. So we could just add 5 or 10 more features and then say, okay, this is done. Or we could add 50 or 60 more features before we call it done. So that's part of it, is we don't really have a defined boundary for when it's completely finished. You know, that's up to us.
Although we do have kind of an idea, because there are plenty of big features we want to put in, such as the full CPA stuff, and I don't know, probably dynamic membranes at some point.
Xenomorphian, I love microbes. That's why I want to stay in the microbe stage and get it as awesome as possible. So you and I agree.
I agree with that too. I like microbes.
It's like those IO games, but more complex. A lot of depth to it.
And I feel like it kind of distinguishes us from the other games that are on the market right now.
Yeah, that's true. I think we have a really nice, unique place in the market because we've got so much realism that no one else really has that. So that's really nice. I do really agree with you, Oliver, as well, that there's several key features that we need, definitely, and things like CPA system, having nice patches with different populations in and that kind of stuff is definitely like minimum viable product stuff.
Guys, I have to head out in approximately 10 minutes. So.
You got an exam this afternoon?
Yes, I have an exam at noon.
Been very impressed by how much you managed to work on Thrive while having exams. It's impressive because
I also have been acing my exams, so it's all good.
Nice.
Yeah, thanks. Oh, don't worry, I'll hang out for another 10 or so minutes. The bus doesn't get here until 11:39. So, but it might come a little bit earlier. So. My car is at home, so I can't drive to campus, unfortunately.
Hello, sorry, had to leave for a second. Did I miss anything?
Just me talking about how I have exams soon.
Yeah, see, we've got developers who are doing this in their free time and then exams in their non-free time.
I mean, and I'd like to thank everyone. So I started a Patreon a while ago, and I've been getting a lot of support on there now. And you guys have no idea how much I appreciate it. This means that I'll be able to work on Thrive like the way I've been doing next semester. Which is good.
Which is an advantage for all of us.
Yeah, I agree. Thanks to everyone who's given money to Patreon. That's really kind of you. Our mega mystery patron is we seem to have got like some rich person come along and offer to match other people's donations as well, which is cool.
Yep.
Yeah,
it's very generous of them.
Go along and donate $5 per month to Untrustedlife, and someone will do the same.
I feel like I need to give money to hhyyrylainen. What's up, hhyyrylainen? hhyyrylainen was saying something.
What should I say? I've got like a bunch of stuff to do like next semester related to university and my job. So like even if I got some extra money, I couldn't like magically make more hours appear in the day.
Yeah. I don't know how I'm managing to pull it off, but I am.
Well, I guess we'll probably rely on you a lot in the next couple of months.
The problem is that hhyyrylainen is our engine guy, right? And I've been mostly doing gameplay code. So
Yeah,
I'm
and
terrified.
All the crashes are in the engine somewhere deep inside, and Untrustedlife doesn't want to touch them.
I'm gonna have to, though, I guess.
It's fine.
Yeah, I'll just have to fix them during the Christmas break, and then release the hotfix.
Yeah, OBPSG, are you going to help with that? Are you likely to be able to help out with programming soon? And crodnu says, download more free time.
I wish that's how it worked.
Pay DLC for free time.
That's pretty much is how it works.
True.
Nice. So were there a load of questions in the chat or anything that we missed or could answer?
A couple. I don't think we made a note of many of them.
Yeah, we've been too busy talking about the future and all the things we're excited about. Oh, one thing I really want in the next big version is the ability to eat chunks of sulfur as a sulfur eating microbe. Those exist. There's also iron respirating microbes. I want to get all the weird stuff in the game that's real and make it so you can do it. It's great.
I think that's one of the things I've been most struck by, watching those microbiology videos you linked and reading about microbes and stuff is just how like weird what world it is. Like as kind of that point you've been making recently, that every time you find something that a large scale animal does, there's a microbe that basically does the same thing or something weirder, which is kind of incredible.
Yeah, it's like so I think it's funny when people are like, "Oh, when is the animals gonna happen?" Because animals are more interesting than microbes. It's like you don't know how interesting microbes are, my friend.
We're going to make you appreciate how interesting they are.
It's like you bring up something an animal can do, and it's like this one has a mouth. Okay, here's a microbe that actually has a mouth right here. It exists. Oh, but this thing could tunnel. This thing could make little tunnels. It's like, well, here's a microbe that does that. It's I don't know.
I agree, it's nuts. And also, it's almost like we can't invent alien organelles because no one's going to believe the real ones that we found on Earth. You know, like there was that talk of having an electrical organelle that can make electric currents and things, and that really does exist. But it's going to sound so gamey if we try and tell people like, you know, you can do this, it's a real thing. So if we invent any kind of alien ones, then you know people aren't going to believe that they're real.
But animals can fly. Crodnu, there are definitely microbes that could like drift on wind currents.
That's how you get colds.
Yeah.
Microbes can't play piano. That is a good point.
Yeah, microbes can't play piano though.
I'm not out of a job yet. Also, the Xenomorphian says, excuse me, is there any way I can donate 1 million of my free time for the Thrive devs?
Well, if you have free time, join the team and work on the game.
That is how you donate it.
Yep.
Or use it telling other people about the game so they can do the same.
Yeah, or do like what Kinesis does and create like just be excited about it on YouTube. Like that actually really helps us.
And be an active member of the community and help with all the in-depth discussions we're planning to have on the community forums.
Can any microbes think collectively? So that's one problem. Like I could not find. I looked pretty hard. I cannot find eusocial microbes anywhere. Although I think multicellular organisms are kind of like eusocial microbes.
Yeah, I think that's pretty true. The analogy is quite good. You know that they can't that by becoming a multicellular organism, you give up your ability to reproduce, and then there's one cell that reproduces. You know, rather than all of them. So there's a pretty close analogy, I think.
Like, yeah. So we can't have eusocial microbes in the game until we have, you know, multicellular stage. Unfortunately, we can't have our microbe ants. Although that would be amazing if we could. There are microbes that have like a bunch of different life stages. Like dinoflagellates. There's a lot of really cool. I'll link some stuff in our Discord later. About some really cool microbes with a lot of different life stages. So we could definitely get the caste system in there.
That's cool. I suppose there's also microbial mats and things where the bacteria are all cooperating to build some macro scale structure, but they're not sort of
they're not like
coordinated in the same way.
Though. They just sort of happen to build it.
Not say the same thing about ants and an ant's nest. I don't know. I suppose the ants maybe have more of a plan.
In multicellular, Dorna, that's definitely something we want.
I think it's interesting. I think one of the really interesting things about Thrive is like I kind of feel it's slightly in like 3 phases. You know, there's the 2D top-down bit where you're playing as cells or groups of cells, and then there's kind of you're a creature for ages, and then you play as a society, like as a civilization. It's kind of those 3 things. And one of the great questions is what carries over in between those sort of boundaries, because it'd be really lame if like you play the microbe for a bit and you make loads of decisions about what your cells are going to be like, and then you get to be a creature, but the cell stuff doesn't matter anymore, and you just kind of start again with a blank slate. And likewise, if you go from being a creature to being a civilization, it would really suck if that was just then deleted. So like a civilization of elephants is the same as a civilization of pigeons or something. You know, they have the same properties. So I think an interesting problem is trying to work out what carries over, you know, into the civilization phases. And I think one really interesting thing is that if you were eusocial as an animal, what would that mean for your cities? Like, how would they be different? Like, I think you could, for example, sustain much more war exhaustion because you can just create tons and tons of drones and send them out, and it really doesn't affect your cities that much to continually do that. Whereas for species that have individuals where they each value their own individual existence very highly, then they get more war exhaustion much faster.
I personally think that if you do end up being like an ant, that should definitely like immediately give you access to strategy mode.
Interesting.
Like it wouldn't be like you wouldn't have to worry about like the politics, but like you would be able to control multiple ants and send them around, for example.
RTS style.
Yeah. So I think that would be like one way to get to the strategy mode earlier than the rest of the things. But
What about stuff like a wolf pack?
Yeah, a wolf pack's another one that would be interesting. I mean, I suppose just for the microbe stage, we talked about having kind of flocking behaviors or signaling agents where you can put an agent in the water and that'll summon other members of your species kind of flock around with you for defense and that kind of thing, which I guess is a bit like how a wolf pack works.
Oh yeah, that's definitely something we want is microbes that have pack behavior in a way. All right, guys, I gotta head out. So have fun with the rest of the stream. I'll see you chat later. I'll probably listen to the stream on my way back, on my way to school.
I can't really imagine we've got much more to go with this. But
see you guys.
Well, good luck.
Awesome, man. Good luck. Yeah, good luck with your exam. Hope it goes great.
Yeah, I hope so too. Bye.
See ya.
Bye.
Now what?
Are there any chat questions that people want answered while we're here?
There was one guy asking if the game will run on a laptop with 2 gigs of RAM. And the answer is probably not, because probably has so ancient processor that just doesn't.
How hard is it to get the game running on older hardware? Because it's always that balance about how much effort it is to try and get it working on more hardware versus how many people we have with older stuff. Because I know is it not working on 32-bit machines at the moment?
Yeah, that's the first obvious thing, that there's no 32-bit version. But even then, like, it seems like basically all of the crashes that happen like before you can start the game, those are like inside the graphics engine, and like it doesn't even print like what type of graphics hardware they have, and it just crashes in there somewhere.
Okay, so we couldn't even fix that if we wanted to.
Well, I guess maybe we could, but like it's a bug in the graphics engine, or maybe it's a known limitation that they just have too old graphics, and it cannot run like so. We switched from the legacy OpenGL something to something rendering system in Ogre to 3.3 OpenGL Core, which is much more demanding. Like it needs pretty modern hardware to actually run.
Okay, that makes sense.
So TR8 is, could you add layers of other cells floating around in the background? It's interesting thing to consider if we want background cells or not.
Would they be purely aesthetic, or would you kind of interact with them somehow? Because I know that like Flow, the game, has those little buttons you can press which move you up and down between layers and that kind of thing. So it just means like visually you can see other ones in the background. I don't know if that would look good or not.
I think Spore did the cells in the background thing. They're blurred.
I don't mind. I'm not much of a visuals guy, so if people are keen on that, then that's possible. But if not, then not. I don't know. If anyone else has an opinion.
My opinion is that the cell simulation is not exactly free, so the background cells would have to be like fakes, just some scaled down models or something, like not actual cells that are simulated.
Like just a render cells move around randomly.
It might also get confusing if if they look too much like the regular cells, then you don't want the player to be reacting to them. You want them very much like if you can see it as a standing out as a cell, you can react to it. And if it's in the background, it would need to be very kind of blurry to not disrupt things.
Yeah, there's a trade-off between movement readability and realism with the graphics.
Another way we could do it is we could sort of add in some atmospheric perspective to it, sort of make them less saturated as they recede farther into the background.
That could work.
Yeah, that's true. Sounds interesting. I suppose there's also the other trade-off of amount of effort it requires to do it versus awesomeness that it adds to the game. So that's probably it's not that huge effort, it sounds, but some reasonable effort. But does it make the game that much more awesome? I'm not sure. It probably scores relatively low on that ratio. There's probably other stuff we can think of which, if we put effort into it, we'll get much better results.
It depends on whether people want to add those features themselves, because we've had several people come along and add features they want to anyway, within reason, obviously. So I guess if someone wants to add it, we won't stop.
Yeah, I agree. It's nice when people are passionate about stuff. Like Untrustedlife is really passionate about doing the bacteria, and that really helps because then you get a really good result out of it, which is awesome.
Here's another good question. Sanu says, I asked this earlier. Will there be solid things in there, such as suspended soil articles? I do foresee these things might not be to scale compared to the cells. Like detritus, rocks floating around?
Yeah, I think the plan is to have kind of rocks around that you can attach yourself to, maybe, or use a defense, or even build yourself if you're like a calcium-consuming microbe that can excrete calcium in sort of controlled ways to build shapes yourself. So you could build yourself a shell or anything else. I'm sure there's plenty of possibility for that.
I agree. I think it's something that Untrustedlife is quite keen on, of having kind of solid food stuff like sulfur or iron, which you can kind of grab and eat and respirate. I'm not exactly sure whether he wants that as things which make glucose or as things which make ATP from glucose. I'm not exactly sure how it works, whether it's because I think iron respiration, it's an electron receiver, I think, but I'm not exactly sure how it works. But yeah, stuff like ice also in the ice shelf, that's an interesting avenue we could pursue for like you pushing these little ice cubes around, and if you touch them you get damaged, maybe that kind of stuff. That's cool too. I don't know.
If we do add the current stuff, it could also have an effect on that. If you're in an ice biome and there's ice around, it maybe slows down in certain places or whatever.
Yeah, that sounds cool. That'd be kind of like being an icebreaker ship in the 19th century, and the ice is all closing in around you, and you're slowly getting crushed. That would be kind of terrifying.
Yeah, an icebreaker cell. That could be an interesting evolution.
I think I like that idea with things like temperature and salinity and acid, pH and that kind of stuff, to have sort of active gameplay ways to interact with it, like being crushed by ice, is more interesting than just saying, this patch is minus 20 degrees now, you just put these proteins in and you'll be fine. I think it's nice to have active gameplay around these things.
Yeah, agreed.
And instead of directly doing damage, the ice blocks could lower your temperature rapidly.
They could maybe affect the rate of respiration in mitochondria even.
Yeah, that's an interesting way of doing it. Especially if that's kind of combined with agents that might have similar effects. That's a powerful combination. I suppose it's one of the things to think about for the next release is we probably got 20 or 30 or maybe more, like 40 cool ideas of things we could do. The question is, which are the smartest ones to do now to kind of help us make progress?
Yep. And I think the plan is for you to make a thread about that on the forums tomorrow, if you're still up for that.
Yeah, I think that's. I think I'll do that so we can sort of have a discussion about which features we like most.
And you can all be involved with that because that will be on the community forums. So go over there and register if you haven't already, and be a part of the Thrive community.
I think it's also probably worth saying thanks to everyone who is part of the Thrive community and is excited about the game and has been supporting us with, things like telling your friends or things like posting on the forums and stuff. That's really cool of you to do, and thanks. We're all volunteers here, so we appreciate all the support.
And thanks in particular to Kinesis, who's created some interesting gameplay videos of him getting quite hyped about the game, which has spurred us on to continue when we were having difficulty continuing ourselves.
Kinesis' enthusiasm is definitely infectious.
And you can all go and do your own excuse me, I can't speak today. Your own Thrive playthroughs on YouTube as well, and go and experience what that's like.
Yeah, awesome. Okay, cool. Well, does anyone else have stuff they want to talk about? Or otherwise, I might head out for a bit.
Well, does anybody in the chat have any pressing questions about, mainly about this version, I think? Someone asks, will there be extremer files? Probably, because there are some extreme biomes that you could end up in, like you could end up quite close to a hydrothermal vent. I'm not exactly sure how we're going to add those in.
I think in some ways, some of the stuff we have already is extremophiles. So if you're a hydrogen sulfide metabolizer and you live near a hydrothermal vent, I think that would probably make you an extremophile, but that's kind of just, where our microbes start. Hopefully, yeah, we'll have things that live in very cold places and very hot places, and hopefully things that live in very dark places and very bright places. So I don't know whether, as you say, whether that technically qualifies as extremophiles, but that's quite a big range of places that you can live in.
Will saves be able to be imported from a version to another? Well, I don't think saving is working at all at the moment.
Yeah, there is no saving right now, but in the future, once the game is in a more stable place, then I think saves will be able to be imported. But at least for me, it won't be like the biggest priority before, like we have multiple hours of gameplay. So it takes a bit of work.
There's not really much point saving anything at the moment.
Yeah, I agree, especially if it's a lot of work to put saving in, then we don't want to do it too soon. Other options we can do for like exporting things, which is, for example, we could have a string of letters that generates a cell, and then it'd be easy to share cells with other people that you just share the string of letters and that kind of thing. We already kind of have that a little bit, but we could try working on that if we wanted to make.
He's been silenced again. The anti-Thrive mob taken him.
Did I get cut off?
Yes.
Phone sorted out properly to be a microphone, so it keeps turning itself off, which is very annoying.
Oh.
Doing okay, I guess.
Anyone else have questions? We should probably wrap up pretty soon, because we don't want to go on for too long, because no one will want to come back and watch this all the way through. But oh, and Ensyn has joined. Were you here this whole time? Have I just been really unobservant?
I came about 15 minutes ago, I think.
Okay. I clearly need my eyes tested.
Yeah, I was the one that made the comment about the atmospheric perspective.
Yeah, cool.
TRH asks, in the future of the game, will you be able to customize the spawn planet? Yes. Although I'm not sure to what degree you'll be able to customize it. Like, maybe you could set like a vague setting somewhere to say, I want maybe high difficulty or something. Or whether you could go into detail with changing specific climate traits or things. I'm not sure we have that sorted yet, but it will definitely happen.
Yeah, I think that's true. I also think that one of the main things about the game is kind of discovery. So the issue is that choosing too much at the beginning is kind of slightly in conflict with discovering cool stuff later on. So if you can choose, exactly what's in your solar system and how many planets and what life is on each one of them, then you can't discover that later in the game when you get to the early space stage and they tell you, this is the industrial stage and they develop better telescopes and they can tell you what other planets there are. So we've kind of got to balance that a bit. That it's nice to add the ability for people to customize their planets, especially if they played the game a lot. And we don't want to sort of give away all the cool stuff that you can discover right in the first, click of the mouse.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good way of looking at it.
I did do some kind of planetary maths stuff, which hopefully is still workable, which lets you kind of, you can do things like change the size of the star, and then it'll automatically compute like the length of that the star will live for, and the light spectrum it will emit, and then it will calculate where the habitable zone is around that star and that kind of thing. So hopefully we can get that stuff in at some point. Awesome. All right. Well, it's been really nice talking with you guys. I know I don't come on podcasts very much, but it's great to get a chance to, chat with everyone. That's great. So thanks for joining.
It's been great having you here. Lots of insightful points.
All right. Awesome. Well, I'm going to go. So I guess I'll catch you all soon. And see you in a bit.
Right, see ya.
Yeah.
I don't think we really have much more we can add to the end of the podcast now, unless anyone has some objections. We'll try wrapping things up. No, we will not put an ETA for the release of 1.00 in a month. Unless someone can find an infinite supply of Thrive devs somewhere, that's not going to happen.
Yeah, if anyone has a cloning machine lying around, let us know.
I'm going to be honest, I think there are better uses for a cloning machine than building Thrive. But maybe not.
You could use the cloning machine for some biological research.
Could do. Okay, I think we've gotten to cloning machines now. It's probably about time to end. We don't want this going on too long. So, say goodbye, everyone in chat.
Bye, everyone.
Yeah, and
thank you very much for.
Hopefully, we'll have the hotfix done for the few crashing things pretty soon. Can't really promise it, but hopefully quite soon. And
Yeah,
some logging for better bug reports. So look forward to that.
For now, if you can't play the game because it crashes too much, watch other people play it on on YouTube or whatever, and post your own playthroughs on the forums so other people can see them. And yeah, come join the forums, be an active part of the community. Look out for more releases soon. And thank you for being here this whole time. It's been a long road. We're grateful that you stuck with us so long.
All right, that's it for this podcast.
Yay!
Bye.
Oh, so